Leningrad, birthplace of the Russian Revolution. Across this square in October 1917, Red Guards raced to storm the Winter Palace. It was the beginning of 73 years of communism. Now it is a very different group which brandishes its arms in that same square. These White Guards are the cutting edge of a new fascist movement, military in appearance and fervently nationalistic in its message. With the revolution in ruins and President Gorbachev fighting for his political life, fascists like these believe they could emerge victorious from the crisis. 500 miles away, the same fascist movement openly parades in Moscow. The leader speaks with a style and tone that unmistakably echo another leader in another age, Germany in the 1930s. And it is not only the rhetoric that recalls Nazi Berlin, it is also the target. For as the new fascists make their first mark in the Soviet Union, it is the Jews who are suffering. Bigotry, arson and murder. Thousands are fleeing. This is a story about something which officially is simply not happening. The KGB, with all its extraordinary resources, has assured us that there is no serious problem here with neo-fascism and that there is no evidence of a rising hostility or violence towards Jewish people. But we've been here and talked to the leaders of these groups and to their victims. And tonight we present our evidence of the birth of the new Nazis. Some things in the Soviet Union have still not changed. Every hour on the hour, the guards still march like clockwork outside Lenin's tomb in Red Square. Every May, the familiar Victory Day parade howls through the center of Moscow. It celebrates the great triumph of communism over fascism 45 years ago.
This day, the 9th of May, means everything to me. I fought for victory over Germany, German fascism, alongside our allies, the British and the Americans.
It's Victory Day, the day of the victory over fascist Germany. Not over Germany, over fascist Germany.
But behind the parade's traditional show of military strength, there is a new uncertainty about life in Gorbachev's Russia.
I never thought that the Germans would live better than we do. How can this be? We won the war. They lost it. Now I can hardly buy a pair of shoes. How can it be?
The irony is that Russia in 1990 has just the same volatile mix of social problems that beset Germany during the rise of the Nazis. A new Soviet elite can wine and dine and enjoy the good life Western style. There is an unmistakable touch of decadence in the air. The black market is thriving, organized crime and violence are booming, prostitution is rampant. But for the ordinary Russian, life has become grindingly poor. The economy has collapsed, millions suffer from poor housing and low wages, and now they're also threatened with unemployment and soaring food prices. For months, the shops have been almost empty. The food queues stretch forever. Just like Germany in the 1930s, it all makes a fertile breeding ground for political extremes.
The rise of the power of right-wing movement in this country is very connected with the crisis, the political and economical crisis in this country. But unfortunately now, after the 5 years of perestroika and glasnost, Gorbachev and his government, they have not any success in economical field. Of course, they have a great success in foreign affairs, and they are very popular in the West, but in Soviet Union, people are hungry and they want to know who has a responsibility.
The first fascist groups broke cover 5 years ago, exploiting Gorbachev's new democratic era. Foremost among them was Pamyat, the Russian word for memory. Pamyat harks back to a golden age of Russia under the Tsar. It claims that the country then was stable, happy and well-fed. Today, Igor Suchov and his followers lay a wreath to the memory of the 12th century prince who founded the ancient city of Moscow.
We will restore our past, and our past will triumph. We ask you to support us, you brothers, you Russian people, and people of all nationalities. The future of our state depends on the national and popular revival of all the peoples in our state.
Down
with Russian fascism!
Most of the crowd listened passively to the Pamyat leader, but a few angry voices attacked him.
Why don't you go work on a collective farm instead of waving your arms about? It's disgraceful!
Just now, Russians were shouting they're fascist.
They weren't some Russians. There was only one woman. I thought there would have been more provocative shouts like that. You see, as soon as we start talking about the Holy Russian cause, about Russian national interests, we are labeled as fascists and nationalists. That is absolutely untrue.
Pamyat rejects 73 years of communism. Their politics are built around the old Russian institutions, monarchy, the church, and the aristocracy. One of the first of the Pamyat groups was founded by DMITRI VASILIEV. He has no time for democracy.
Aristocrats are the thinking upper class of a nation. Democrats are its lowest layers. Do you want us to put the lowest level of society on top and let them govern the aristocracy? That would only lead to anarchy. We had enough of that in 1917. We've had enough of the democratic experience. We have sacrificed 110 million people at the altar of democracy. Anyway, democracy is a very doubtful idea, which was imported from abroad.
Even more worrying is the central ingredient of Pamyat's message, the claim that all Russia's problems can be traced back to the Jews. There are 1.5 million Jews in the Soviet Union, the third largest community in the world. Pamyat blames them for masterminding the Bolshevik Revolution, for murdering the Tsar and his family, even for organizing the Stalinist terror of the 1930s. What has been the role of Jews in Russian history since the revolution?
I knew we were going to talk about the Jews. It seems that nobody else lives in the world, only the Jews. However, you have forced me to do so. For me, Jews and the Jewish question do not exist on their own. They are just one of the composite parts of the culture of the whole of mankind. But you have forced me, you have provoked me, and here is my answer. If I am accused of anti-Semitism, I will blame you because you brought up the question. All I can say is, the Jews played the most negative and the most tragic role in the history of Russia back in 1917. They may denounce communism today, but they gave it to us as a present, because Marx is a Jew, and I might add, they crucified Christ.
Pamyat's message has a simple and disturbingly powerful appeal for those Russians disenchanted with communism and the crumbling economy.
For ordinary Soviet citizen, it's very clear, it's very simple to understand that who are enemy, Zionist, who created this system, Zionist, why we live so poor, because October Revolution, it was Zionist conspiracy. Who was the member of the first Lenin's government? 70% were Jews. It's really very simple explanation for public opinion who has the guilt of this crisis of great Russia. Jews, Zionists.
There is a deep current of anti-Jewish thinking which runs through Russian history. It has touched all walks of life. Concert pianist Nikolai Petrov has seen Russian music devastated by the persecution of Jews.
During last, say 20 years, we lost more than 600 musical families. Today they work in Moscow or in Kiev or in Odessa, and tomorrow they work in Baltimore or New York or Cleveland or anywhere else. They are afraid of about the future of their children. The situation even now is very, very tense. There is a big danger from the society, Pamyat, and all our extremist organization that they will very soon kill all the Jews. And the people is just afraid.
Officially, however, life for the Jews has improved under Gorbachev. They are now allowed to practice their religion. For the first time, Passover was shown on state television this year. Another breakthrough was this concert by Danny Robas in Moscow last month. The first time that an Israeli pop star has ever been allowed to play inside the Soviet Union. But even though the official policy may now be kinder to Jews, the day-to-day hostility of some Russians appears to be stronger than ever. Peter Shapiro is a professional sculptor in Moscow. 2 years ago, officials in the Siberian city of Irkutsk commissioned him to produce a huge monument to some revolutionary heroes. He built a scale model of it, but then a campaign was organized against him.
Almost immediately, some underhand activities began. It was members of the Pamyat Society. They bombarded the editors' offices of the main newspapers with their letters. They also made life unpleasant for me to some extent. It seems to me there was only one reason for their opposition. I'm a Jew. And, as I say, it was Pamyat who organized all this opposition.
Peter Shapiro's commission was withdrawn. The monument was never built. But what most worries Moscow's Jews is a wave of physical attacks, indiscriminate in targeting male or female, old or young. Many of the children in this synagogue have had to come to a special school here to avoid anti-Semitism in the official schools. SASHA MAGRITSKI, who's 13, was the only Jewish boy in his class in an ordinary state school. One day last October, his PE teacher started beating him and then kicked him downstairs.
I started to climb back upstairs, but the teacher blocked my way. He hit me in the solar plexus. Then he turned me round several times, hit me on the back of my head, pushed me down the stairs, and chased me into the changing room. He hit me several times again in the solar plexus and on the shoulder. I was so stunned by then I can't clearly remember where else he hit me. I do remember hitting the wall with the back of my head, and I saw his face twisted with hatred.
If Sasha was in any doubt about why he had been so brutally attacked, the teacher went out of his way to explain when they got back into the gym.
He told me that if it were up to him, he would shoot everyone like me. Then he said that in ancient Rome, babies like me were thrown over the cliff.
Alexander Kuprin cannot be sure why he was attacked. He is half Jewish, but he is also a filmmaker who has warned of the rise of groups like Pamyat. 3 days after one of his films opened, he was walking in the center of Moscow when 2 cars stopped beside him. 5 men got out and asked him if he knew what Pamyat was.
They then grabbed me by the collar and threw me to the ground. I hit the pavement with the back of my head, the curbstone, and I lost consciousness. Then they kept banging my head against the curbstone for some time. My skull was fractured. That's how it happened, according to eyewitnesses. I now know what Pamyat is. I know for sure.
The police told Kuprin's wife, Liena, that they couldn't find her husband's attackers, so she set out to investigate herself. She found a flat used by a fascist group and told them she wanted to join their struggle.
I read one of their leaflets, Program for the Revival of Russia. It terrified me because this program was absolutely pro-fascist. Among other things, it talked about the deportation of Jews and taking away their rights, about the sterilization of people who were considered to be unpure, and setting up special camps for sick people and people who couldn't bear absolutely normal children.
We too have obtained some of these fascist leaflets. The thinking comes through loud and clear.
Jews cause bloodshed everywhere. They are as proud as pigs. They want to turn all Russians into slaves. Jews are turning Russians into alcoholics. They cause the food shortage. Perestroika is run by Jews. Perestroika is a noose around the neck of the Russian people. Only the church and the monarch can untie the noose. How can dirty, stinking Jewish people masquerade as proud Russians? Russia for the Russians, death to the Yids.
In Moscow, Pamyat's opponents console themselves that these groups are too busy fighting each other to make any real political progress. But there is no such consolation in Leningrad, formerly St. Petersburg, home of the Tsars. On the face of it, this is the least likely place in the whole world for fascism to find a foothold. During the Second World War, Leningrad held out for 900 days under siege by the German forces. Nearly 1 million died, more from this one city than from all of Britain and the United States combined. Hundreds of thousands are buried in these mass graves outside the city. Yet even in Leningrad, designated a hero city, we found the surest symptom of the new fascism: open hostility to Jews, unchecked by the authorities. Anastasia Vereshchagina was a pupil at a secondary school in Leningrad. One of the teachers there used his position to promote anti-Semitism among his pupils.
He believed that everything that happened in the 1930s, the persecution of the Russian Orthodox Church, the attacks on Russian culture, was all done by Zionists. He blamed the Jews for what was done by the KGB and for controlling the communist government. He did not believe that Stalin played a crucial role in all this. It was his Jewish advisors who made all the decisions.
For 2 years, the authorities ignored complaints. The teacher stayed, so some of those at the school took their own action.
A huge number of pupils left the school, and some teachers did too. I think 12 teachers left and about 150 pupils walked out.
Fascism has not only succeeded in finding a foothold in this once passionately anti-fascist city, its leaders have also forged a new and potentially dangerous unity among themselves. These White Guards are effectively the military wing of a new organization, which has become an umbrella for most of Leningrad's extreme right-wing groups. One man has emerged as the new leader, VYACHESLAV RIABOV. He presents a very different picture to his opposite numbers in Moscow. No uniforms, no street corner rhetoric. RIABOV is a doctor of philosophy, a professor at Leningrad University. Yet the core of his beliefs is just as anti-Semitic.
If we analyze Russian culture today, we encounter a large percentage of Jews. 20% of the Writers' Union is Jewish, about 60% in Leningrad. Practically all the art critics and a majority of the scientists are Jewish too. This naturally provokes dissatisfaction or even some kind of protest.
Here, as in Moscow, Jews have suffered physical attacks. On this estate last summer, 3 men forced their way into the apartment of a Jewish couple.
They came in wearing Ku Klux Klan masks, so we couldn't see their faces. I can't be sure, but they seem to be men about 6 foot tall, broad-shouldered, stout fellows.
The Mezhibursky's 25-year-old son, Mark, tackled the intruders.
The first man who attacked Mark had a gun in his hand. Another one had a knife in his hand, a knife which was used against my wife. The third one had a brass knuckle duster, which he hit me on the head with and injured my skull.
The door to my bedroom burst open, so I stood up as I thought some friend must have come. At that moment, this man came in and he stabbed me in the belly. Immediately he turned away. He must have thought he'd killed me and he ran back down the corridor.
The activities of Leningrad's right-wing groups, like the White Guards, have been studied in depth by a sociologist at Leningrad University. She has plotted their growth and personally mingled with the crowd at their rallies.
At one meeting, a Pamyat leader declared openly that he was ready to die if he could only be sure 5 kikes would follow him to the next world. In that case, he said, he wouldn't think he'd wasted his life.
Dr. Uzonova's study of Pamyat and its literature has turned up another chilling fact.
I have more than one witness who has told me that one of the conditions for joining one of these Pamyat groups is that you have to bring either 3 or 5 Jewish addresses. Some people refuse to do it, but there are some who have brought along many more addresses than was required.
Somehow or other, someone found out the address of this Jewish family. Just after midnight on March the 10th this year, an unknown attacker unscrewed the spy hole from the apartment's front door, squirted inflammable liquid into the hallway, and lit it.
My husband opened the bedroom door, and everything in here caught fire. I couldn't look back because the smoke was so dense, so I couldn't breathe. I nearly suffocated. I was about to jump out of the window. I knew we had a fire, the most terrible fire.
Her husband ran to the front door, but the fire was so intense that the latches had melted.
His clothes caught fire. He ran through the flat. Even the sofa in the far room is damaged by fire. He must have fallen on it, burning. Then he ran out onto the balcony and collapsed on the concrete floor. That's where the firemen picked him up from. He was alive then, but he died in hospital later that day.
She has one horrific reminder of the night her husband died. His footprint, burned into the kitchen floor. In Leningrad's local elections in March, right-wing groups won only 5% of the vote. The Democratic parties easily carried the day. But the Democrats now have all the problems of Russia's crumbling economy to deal with.
It's the people who will choose whether we have a democracy or despotism. If democracy leads the country to total decay, the people then will demand despotism. I think potentially the future belongs to us, because these problems will not go away.
If these Democrats don't do well enough during their 5-year term, if they lose the support of the people, which they do have now, yes, then, unfortunately, it will be these right-wing groups which will have the best chance of taking their place.
Pamyat leaders deny being anti-Semitic, although we know that the KGB has warned Suchov and VASILIEV in Moscow about their verbal attacks on Jews. Still, officially, all this is something that is simply not happening. The KGB won't admit any of the attacks we have described tonight was anti-Semitic. None of the attackers has been arrested. Officially, all is well. Most Jews do not believe it. They have set up a special school tucked away in the safety of woodland 10 miles outside Moscow. Here, those leaving Russia can prepare for a new life. They learn about Western culture and lifestyles, and those who are going to Israel learn Hebrew. We talked to Sasha and Tanya Lerner and their daughter Lisa the night before they left for America.
There is no future for the Jews here because it will take too much time to change the attitude to the Jews here because so many poison was given to the people.
Do you have any regrets now about leaving?
No. My feeling is like a feeling of the person who was put in the prison for the crime he never committed. And now I was told I'm free.
For those who remain, there are brief moments of freedom allowed by perestroika, like dancing to a Jewish folk song played by an Israeli band. But for most, this is not enough. They have no faith in Gorbachev's Russia. Last year, more than 70,000 Jews fled the Soviet Union. This year, a further 100,000 are expected to follow. Shalom Aleichem,